And we are back. Welcome everyone in the chat to another amazing roundtable discussion. We are live. Thanks for being here, everyone. And I've kind of been recluse working on this documentary, Clockwork Shining, mine and Jay Widener's new documentary that's going to be released here very soon, and I'm glad that you guys have been super patient with me while I'm making this documentary. And I got a promotion trailer here for you guys. If you guys didn't see the promotion trailer to begin with, but I hope that you guys like it. That's right, baby. A Clockwork Shining. I'm working very hard on this documentary and the editing process. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work. It's super tedious. And I hope that you guys support this movie whenever it gets released. If you guys don't support anything else that I do, just please watch this documentary whenever it comes out. And if anything could have gotten me out of my little rabbit hole of editing, it is this group of gentlemen that we have with us here today. And first up, we have friend of the show, frequent guest, Shane the Ruiner. It's good to see you, my friend. How's things going?
Oh, hi. All is well, man. Good to see you.
It's good to see you, dude. Octopus, baby, octopussy.
Octopi.
Octopi. What was that? 007, wasn't it Octopussy?
I do believe so.
Yeah, 007 Octopussy.
This one's, I guess this one's not, but the original version of this was actually red and blue because it was meant to kind of think about, current events, but in the past when it came out. But election season, basically, is what they were going for.
Is that one of your shirts, or is that a band
No,
shirt?
it's from A Perfect Circle.
Perfect Circle. For some reason, I thought in this moment's coming close to where I'm at right now in California with Ice 9 Kills. I'm going to go try and check that out.
They did a song together.
Yeah, they did. It wasn't too bad. I thought it was all right.
It means they'll probably do that one live.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. I think it's in September 3rd or 4th. I don't know. I saw an ad for it on Facebook. It's the only good ad that it's been targeted toward me that I've ever seen on there. Then I'm like, oh man, maybe I should click on this and see what's up.
Good band.
All right. And also with this, we have the host of the Secret Teachings radio show on groundzero.radio, Ryan Gable. How's it going, my friend?
Wonderful. I'm glad to be here, and I hope that Oh, I see Ryan there tattooed on his arm. He's a big fan. I'm excited about the show tonight.
It's going to be a fun one. It's always fun. We get a group of white dudes together to talk about some conspiracies and some truth stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, we're not here for Harris? My bad.
I grab him by the octopussy. So.
That's right. Them tentacles. Get up in those tentacles.
That's how Lovecraft does it.
Andy should be joining here soon. If he doesn't, then it just is what it is. I gave him 2 weeks. This thing has been it's actually been in the making for like 2 months, but it's been scheduled for 2 weeks. So he was having internet problems and audio and video issues, but we're still going to kick this bad boy off. And I feel like we're in a huge regurgitation right now, not only like within the community. Me and Shane have talked about this several times, how like everything's kind of regurgitated, but it seems like just like collectively we're in like a giant regurgitation when it comes to political things. And I don't want to get too political because I'm not a political show, but it's just interesting when you see things repeat so quickly and so fast, and it's just like, I'm just waiting for the murder hornets. I want to see the murder hornets make a comeback. We need a new wave of murder hornets, and everything will be complete. The cycle will completely be complete. But it really feels like we're just getting a regurgitation from 2016 and a regurgitation from 2020. And it's culminating all into one. And it's just coming together at this time.
It's like an amalgamation of 2016 and 2020 is what it kind of is. The way I've been putting it for a long time is like 2016 was really meant to make us see how absurd that was, and that didn't really work. So we got 2020, and that didn't really work. So what we're getting this time, an amalgamation, and everything's coming back. I mean, I remember when it was Hillary running and everyone using the Simpsons episode as a prediction that she was going to win, and then the day that Kamala took over, that came back again.
Yep.
The internet has shortened everyone's memory dramatically, and they don't even really, most people remember the fact that they've been sharing these things kind of on a 4-year cycle every 4 years. And there's 2 sections to it. There's the election year cycle, and then there's the between election year cycle. And but it's like this never ending 4-year pattern. And even from the world that I came from, like the whistleblowers, they do the same thing, where it's like every 4 years, they're kind of reinventing themselves, going back on a new circuit, doing a whole new version of what they were doing. And our community does that a lot. Now the alternative community at large does that. Like when I say that, I mean like the Joe Rogans and everybody else. Like it's they're all in on it too. But that's exactly what it's like. It's like we've run out of cards, so we shuffled the deck and started over again.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, even with things that we don't really even care about, like the Olympics. Like, I mean, some people care about the Olympics, some people like the Olympics. I mean, it is what it is. Some people like sports, and that's 100% okay. Right? But it's like this mixing of the mainstream media and the alternative community. And even for the people that claim not to care about it, but it gets pushed in their face, right? And I'm using the Olympics as an example with all the conspiracies and the symbolism of the opening ceremony and like all that, and I feel like it's like a reminder for people that don't care about it or don't watch it, like, oh, hey, the Olympics are on, when I wouldn't have known either way, right? Because I legitimately do not care about the Olympics. Right. And probably a lot of people wouldn't have known. So they put this out into the community. They get everyone talking about this. So it's like, oh, hey, guys, we didn't do any advertisement for the Olympics this year. Not a lot of people know about it. Probably not a lot of people are even interested in it. They're more worried about things that actually matter within their lives. Here's the Olympics. Right. It seems like at this point, they're just making fun of people. They're just making fun of us and making fun of the community and trolling us like super hard. And this one with the the supposed biological man, in the women's boxing category, that the world championship woman boxer like just had to stop the fight like 47 seconds in. And they were saying it was because she's a biological man. She wasn't a biological man. She's a biological female. But they put biological, that she's just boosted up on a bunch of testosterone and like weird hormone things, right? But they put biological male fighting, female in boxing match to promote outrage. And it works all the time. And they do this stuff to just make fun of us at this point, grab your attention, promote outrage. And it's wild when you take a step back and like look at it for what it is.
I said that on a show a couple of weeks ago, that all of us, it doesn't matter what your political views are, it doesn't matter what your religious views are, most of us are being trolled everywhere you look. Social media, mainstream media, alternative media, we're all being trolled pretty hardcore. And I think that the evidence and the proof of that is very evident with the Olympics. I mean, I did a whole symbolic analysis on one of my shows, The Secret Teachings. I was also on a handful of other shows to talk about it. My views are completely different than anything I've heard from either side, which is a lot of just regurgitating. As soon as one person said, oh, it's the horse of the apocalypse, everybody went to Bible Gateway and copy and pasted Revelations and put it online. And I said, no, that's not the horse of Revelation. That's Sequana. That's the goddess. That's the moon. That's something totally different. But the thing that got me was this, obviously this exaggerated kind of reaction to the imagery, which, I mean, it was intended, according to the guy that put it together, his name is Holly, it was intended to mock Christ. And the girl that played Jesus, she said her intention was to mock Christ, that both of them were gay Jews, which is also interesting because the Muslims came to the defense of Christians, but then the Christians also hate the Muslims, even though the Muslims defended the Christians. And it was the Jews openly who said, we don't like Jesus, we're going to mock him at the Olympics. But regardless of that, Christians get upset, and I'm not going to watch the Olympics. Oh, okay, but you just provided them with billions of dollars, probably of free advertising globally, like now until the thing's over and then into the future, because you're going to be talking about this for years. Free advertising for NBC, free advertising for the city of Paris, free advertising for the Olympics in general, and all the corporations that sponsor them and put money into them. It's like it's like real but fake outrage. It's actually, I think it's similar to like when you have those boycotts of Budweiser or Target. People ask me, are you boycotting Budweiser? It's like, I don't drink alcohol. So you're not boycotting? Well, I don't need to boycott because I don't drink it in the first place, right? So I'm not boycotting. So if I'm not boycotting, that must mean I don't care. It's like, well, I already don't support it. So I can't boycott them. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with Target, all the outrage over Target. And I get it. Target doesn't care about gay people any more than they care about their employees. I used to work at Target. Target doesn't care. It's all just pretending like they care to get people to, give them the stamp of approval socially. And it's the same kind of thing with liberals. They get all upset about things and want things canceled. Conservatives want things canceled too. I mean, it was very vile the way that people reacted to the Trump assassination attempt, to say, too bad they didn't get him. But at the same time, like, people were going to different businesses and harassing people and saying, we're going to get you fired. It's the same exact thing that the liberals do. I shouldn't say liberals, the Democrats do. Both sides are being trolled. And trolling.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel like I narrowly escaped the Trump assassination stuff. I was working on the documentary, so I didn't.
You turned your head right at the last minute.
Yeah, turned it, just went right past me. But that's really what it seems like, is that it's a plan to demoralize us, to make us not trust our friends, not trust our family, desensitize us. And that's really what it's been used for. And it's been like a decades long run to make this merging of the communities. That's what it feels like to me. That's what it seems like to me. Shane, what do you think of that?
Well, that's it, right? Like, it's what we've always been talking about, what they've done with our community, and the bigger alternative community is now it's at a point where it doesn't matter what you believe, you can find someone else who's written something official about that at this point, right? Where you can find a website that maybe appears credible enough to say, see, this person said it too, or something like that. It's I heard Shane Cashman, a speaker, talking about it recently, called it a reality buffet. Whatever you want to be real can be real now. And that's exactly what I've been saying is coming, is like they taught us that perception is reality, and soon we will have the technology to make that true. And now we're at that point where nobody knows what to believe, to the point where they don't even trust their own eyes. And that's the argument I keep getting in people, is like, I'm sorry, but I have to trust what's right in front of me, not your interpretation of it, because your interpretation of it isn't matching what's right in front of me. And that's the why is, a lot of people who tend to follow the herd, they will gaslight themselves at that point in time and be like, oh, I must not have seen that, or, oh, it really was just ketchup on his ear, or whatever it is that they have to convince themselves they believe in order to stay in with their clique or their tribe or their cult or their group or whatever it is that applies to them. And so, yeah, that demoralization is a big part of that, right? And disillusionment goes along with it, because as soon as we throw our hands up in the air and be like, I don't know what to believe anymore, someone can come along and go, this is what you believe, child. Come this way.
Yeah. We shepherd you in that direction. Herd you like people think that the mainstream people that don't know about any of this stuff or don't talk about it are being shepherded. It's like the media for the disillusioned people of a different community.
And before we jump off of it, I just want to point out the hypocrisy in the whole thing with the Olympics, because everyone was like, "Oh, we're so outraged, we're not watching the Olympics." Well, y'all sure did. What you did is you went picking for other things to be mad about, and you found them,
including the boxing story.
Exactly, because they wouldn't have found out that any other way. And
It's the opening ceremony was also 4 hours long. And I believe that, yes, this was intentionally done it's a form of ceremonial kind of public magic, and it really influences us subconsciously. And they said it was meant to be offensive, which obviously outrage is good regardless. But it was also 4 hours long. And if you only take one screenshot of 4 hours, that doesn't really give you context for the rest of the ceremony. There were other things that were much more interesting, I thought, than even the Last Supper, like the underground tunnel ritual they did in the catacombs with the kids and the torch and the boat on the river coming out the lighted tunnel. Like, that was pretty powerful for reasons that we could explain. But then again, I've been getting up early to watch the Olympics. I like watching football or soccer, and I like watching basketball. And I've been getting up and watching those, and there's nothing at all in the opening to them, the halftime show. There's nothing weird, occult, even political that I've seen in any of it. So it's like, I don't know how many hours of Olympic footage. I have Peacock, and there's just, every sport is on there. Thousands of hours probably of stuff you could go back and watch. So of the thousands of hours, it's like maybe 20 minutes of stuff that everybody's focused on, to be objective about it. That is, it's like maybe a half hour, of probably 1,000 hours of content.
Yeah, it's like new people come in and then they're like, "Oh well, this one is this was such an occult ritual, blah 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 blah," and then they go back to all the other Olympic opening ceremonies and see and dig up all those old weird ones too. Like, I forget which Olympics it was. It might have been
2012 London, I would assume that you're going to say.
With the wizard, like the giant freaking Voldemort looking guy with a wand that is like
The kids in beds.
Yeah. Which also people were pointing out in 2020 as to what was going on. They were like, "Oh, well, this is predictive programming."
I did a show on that back in 2012 when I was first really getting into radio. I was doing those analysis from the beginning of my show, and I don't remember anything about that ceremony that has to do with COVID. People show one image of, I don't even know if it's really from the ceremony. I never went back and rewatched it, but there's like an image of something that looks like quote unquote coronavirus. And based on that one image of, again, one frame, one frame of, how many thousands of hours, they say, "See, they told us what they were going to do." And it's like, did it say on the stage 2019 coronavirus? No, it was just something that you thought looked like something else. It's like retrocausality. You're looking back into the past now. In the future, something is happening. You're looking back into the past. You're trying to find all this evidence, and I don't know if retrocausality is the right word, but you're trying to find all this evidence and proof from the past that you're being told some secret thing. It's like you actually were told something was going to happen with all the things that were happening in China for the months leading up to that. I was pointing that out to people. I didn't have all the answers. I still don't, but I pointed that out to people, and people laughed at me. There's no disease. There's no that. And then something happened, right? And then we felt exactly what the Chinese were feeling. And then suddenly everything changed. Oh, there's something actually happening here. Yeah, but you paid attention. They were not they in the sense of this like weird dark force somewhere behind the scenes, but like it was in the media what was happening. Not that you can believe that, but there was also Event 201. Like, that's much more them telling you what they're going to do as they're doing it than some random screenshot from a video from, well, at that time it would have been 7 years, but now 12 years ago. It's a little bit ridiculous. I wouldn't doubt it if it's the intelligence community that's involved in promoting this garbage.
part of it. I think it's a lot of it is just the conspiracy community doing what it does, because like we forget that, you know, for predictive programming to have worked prior to the internet and everybody being on the internet, everyone would have had to have actually seen it.
Good point.
Right. And, you know, going back to 2012, you know, that wasn't live streamed. We had the internet, but it's not like it wasn't, you know, what it is today, whereas many people could have tuned into it on the internet, as an example, and especially the further back you go. But again, you know, if they're doing that as a public ritual, that's going to happen in the near future, right? Not what would that be? 20 years, like 10 years later? 10 years later. Yeah. And even with this one, the stuff that people weren't looking at would have been things like the Chinese spy balloon flying past a broken Statue of Liberty, right? Like
I know, I mentioned that, yeah.
That's the kind of thing that people should have paid attention to. But
yeah, and the other patterns of that with the Statue of Liberty, because the Barbara Bush lady, she has the 7-rayed crown on her head, and that's the Mithric crown, the Liberty crown. That's Marianne, who's the freedom goddess of France, and it's just like, it was all goddess symbolism from top to bottom. When you put it into context with that, you realize, oh, it's much more than just the Last Supper. But it's that same kind of thing. Like if you wake up and watch, like if you were to get up and listen to Alex Jones in the morning, this isn't my opinion on Alex Jones. I'm just saying, if you get up and listen to Alex Jones, just his natural presence has such an influence on people that I could listen to Alex Jones and I could listen to CNN in the morning, and then I could go out in public and I could find people who I could tell by their conversations who listened to CNN that morning and people who listened to Alex Jones that morning, because they're only interested in what they heard on CNN that morning and what they heard on Alex Jones that morning. And then the next day it changes.
I wrote that as a song lyric a long time ago from working in convenience stores and listening to everybody while they bought their papers. Right?
You can tell.
Yeah, it's like, I read my opinion in the paper today. Is what the line is. I read my paper, and like over and over again, my conversations all day long were exactly that. I read my opinion in the paper today. This is what it is. Yeah, I know. I've heard it, and I read that paper too. Did you read the paper next to it? Because there's a different opinion on the same.
And they said something totally different. I know I found that to be the most frustrating thing with what I do for my show, because even with the books that I write, but you try to point things out that are different than those narratives, and it doesn't get any leeway. I mean, whether that's with the show title or it's with like response to a show. I mean, I have a great audience. It's just a matter of, I've noticed that things drop off when I provide a different point of view. And it's not in one of those categories. I get people that call me or text me, people that I know, like friends or acquaintances, and sometimes I'll get 2 or 3 in the same day. Did you hear about X or whatever? Not Twitter, but like X, whatever the thing is. And I'm like, yeah, I heard about that. So do you think it's ... whatever I also read on InfoWars that morning? And then I get another call. Did you hear about something? Yes. Well, I saw it on Rumble. I bet you did. That doesn't mean that it's true. I bet you saw it on Rumble, and I bet you saw it on Band.video. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's like, there are other ways to think, you know, like I keep a collection of resources here, like encyclopedias and all kinds of other things, because I want to go to a source that can't be, unless we're living in an actual like physical Matrix movie, things that can't be reset. Like that book can't be, I mean, it can be rewritten, but like that particular copy that's old, you know, my symbol dictionary, no one can come in and edit that and do something to that. That's going to be solid regardless of what changes online. That's the way that's my philosophy. That's what I choose to do anyway.
You got any maps back there, bro?
No, I got no maps. I haven't been in prison yet. If I go to prison, I'll get some maps for you guys.
You got to get those maps, dude. Those maps are important.
When I was in prison, they tried to choke me to death, and they tried to kill me. Probably because he was doing stuff to young people. They don't like that in prison.
The what is this? I'm trying to keep track of the chat, but it's...
Is it popping?
Going. I guess X just made a new thing that you have to be a premium payer to go live on there now.
To go live on X.
Yep. Got to be paying Elon Musk those Musk dollars to go live on there.
Musk
dollars.
dollars.
Viral so that they're making their money.
They can get a cut of it, yeah. Yeah, it's great. Elon Musk definitely is a believer in free speech. I think he just wants the data for his Optimus robot. That's my theory.
Something like that. I didn't know that this was a thing. This must have happened.
Go figure, the guy who's pro free speech is also running AI companies and large language models and data banks and all this autonomous stuff. Go figure. I would be pretty pro free speech too if I wanted that kind of information from people. But
it's funny how that works, isn't it? Like, it's hard to get conservatives to see that, and it's hard to get liberals or whatever they are to see that they don't really care about the environment or electric cars, because as soon as Musk bought X, it was like, oh, suddenly it's a fascist company. They conceal information, and then before he even took over, and then suddenly they don't want their Teslas. We're driving this Tesla. He's a fascist. So you don't care about the environment. But it's both sides that do it.
And that was all before the Twitter files too, which is like kind of funny, right? Because like what came out of the Twitter files should tell us a lot of things about a lot of different stuff, and a lot of people didn't even bother paying much attention to them. But
it's like when people get really upset after an election. It's like, maybe it's late November, early December, and they're like, this Democrat who's elected is just horrible. It's like, well, they don't take office for another 2 months. So what are they doing that's so awful? Or this Republican's so awful. It's like, they don't take office till like the 20th of January, right? They just assume that they're already the president and they've done something bad because they're on a different team.
And what a stupid game they play, where it's like, if they think they're not going to win, they start breaking things so that the next guy has to deal with it. You know what I mean? It's like, guys, do you actually care about your country, or do you just care about winning? Because it seems like you just care about winning.
Perception control, perception management.
Do you guys ever go into a grocery store and it just reminded me when you guys were talking, Shane, you were talking about a grocery store here a few minutes ago. And like, I don't know, I've like had this thing like happen to me a lot here recently where I don't know if it's always happened or if it's just been brought more to my attention. But it seems like everywhere I go in public, there's always people running into me. You know what I mean? Like,
you mean physically running into you?
Yeah, like not actually hitting me, but making me stop my like walking. Like I can't just walk into a store, go get what I want, and not stop my path of walking there, even though that there's a path straight to the thing that I need. Like there's always something or someone that is like coming around the corner or cutting to where like I have to stop in my tracks to let them, and I'm not doing it to them, they're doing it to me.
COVID and the arrows on the floor did it to us, the social distancing.
You're going the wrong direction.
It was like so ingrained into our genetics of just how to work in public. Like we've been doing it for so long that like you learned it as a kid. It just, you grew up with it, but whatever they did there, it broke it. And I'm seeing the same thing where people like just stop in the middle of the aisle and start checking their phone or like deliberately just like not be looking while they're turning. Right. It's like,
these things are objectively becoming more noticeable, I think. There's always people in public that do that, but objectively, I've started taking pictures of the parking situation I've been complaining about for a long time. I swear to God, just last night, I went to a movie last night. I pull in the parking lot. It's a big mall, and there's several cars in the line that I went down and parked. There's several cars. They're pulled in the middle of the two parking spots, straight forward. There's a car pulled in almost sideways, and these are just like very set. It's a brand new parking lot almost, so like the lines are there. It's my apartment complex. It's Trader Joe's I go to. It's the mall for a movie. There's just no consideration for the parking spaces anymore, and I mean like it's exaggerated to the point where it looks like someone just intentionally pulled in sideways like they had a limousine or something, but these are like compact cars. There's just no consideration whatsoever.
It's just unbelievable. Like, and I'm convinced that it's been like this for a really long time, and it's just really become super noticeable for me. And I was talking to my girlfriend about it the other day, and like I was telling her about it before we went into the store, and I'm like, listen, when we go into the store and by the time we walk out, I guarantee you at least 2 to 3 people will have almost ran into me. 100%. And it happened within seconds after me saying it. And I was like, I could literally walk into a grocery store, be me and one other person are the only people in the entire freaking grocery store, and somehow that guy will bump into me. And I just proved it. I went there last night at 4:30 in the morning. We have a 24-hour grocery store here in the town that I'm in. And I went there at 4:30 in the morning because I'm working on this documentary. I'm doing all the editing. I do a lot of it at night. And I went to get some orange juice and some tea because I'm trying to quit drinking caffeine and just drink tea, stopping drinking coffee and energy drinks and all that. That's why I got my tea here. Boom, baby. And I'm going to park my car. There's like 2 people in this entire grocery store that are actually like customers. And I'm walking up to the front of the grocery store. There's a guy that's standing outside and he's on his phone or something. And I see him from a long ways away. After I park my car, I see that he's standing outside. And I'm like, this dude is he's going to cut me off. I know that he is going to make me stop my motion of walking into this grocery store in mid-step. And what do you know? As soon as I go to walk in, he walks right in front of me, right? Didn't stop me. But then as soon as we got into the grocery store, he immediately turns around to face me. And I have to stop dead in my tracks or I'll run right into him. I'm like, bro, we're the only 2 people in this freaking giant grocery store. And then I walk through I might be seeming like I'm making a big deal about this, but it's just really frustrating and annoying. And I don't understand it and I don't get it. And then I'm walking more through the grocery store and no one's in there but workers. And then a worker runs into me. I'm like, can I not go to the thing that I need? All I need is orange juice and some freaking tea bags, bro. Like, can I not have a peaceful walk into this grocery store and get the things that I need where I know where they are and walk out without having to be stopped dead in my tracks every freaking 2 steps?
Yeah, I could see how I think everybody has these kinds of experiences. Most people do. And if I complain about parking spots too, it's just like evidence or proof or a symptom of a larger societal or cultural problem. Funny thing is, I talked to, you guys know Charlie Robinson, macroaggressions.
Yeah,
I've been friends with Charlie for quite a long time, and he found out that I was going overseas, and he said, "Hey man, I just got back from Tokyo," and he's like, "I want to move there now." And he did a show on it when he got back, and he starts telling me about Tokyo, largest city in the world. He's like, "There's no trash." He's like, "There's no homelessness. I don't see any drug use. They don't even honk their car horns." He said, "It's clean. Everything runs on time." He's like, "Why can't we do that in the United States? Aren't we the most advanced?" I mean, that's always been unless you've been to Tokyo, I'm going to be going to Tokyo, but I've always heard that. And then Charlie called me and told me that's exactly his experience, and that people are, relatively speaking, very kind and very helpful. I mean, to the point where it's almost excessive in terms of how much they'll help you if you ask for help. But in the United States, because I don't think that this is the case. Like, I know people that live in Russia. I know some people live in Moscow. They say that it's not like that in Moscow. So it's like, it's not like that in Moscow. Relatively speaking, it's not like that in Tokyo. It's not like that in other places that I know people who live there. I mean, including some South American countries. But for some reason, it's getting like really bad in the United States, like objectively really bad. What you're saying, the parking thing, I think is a symptom of people have no respect. It's almost like we're going to get to the point where we're going to need those little tracks that they have in WALL-E that show the robots where to go, just like Shane was saying, like we had the arrows that told us where to go. It fried our brains. We're going to need the stores to tell us, okay, you need to turn right and then turn left and then walk down that aisle. And you're going to have some kind of like transport thing that carries you to the exact location. And on top of that, like you go to the store and it's like, when I used to work at Target, we used to have a little device and you just type in like, well, okay, you're looking for bed sheets. Let's see, you're looking for a specific bed sheet. Okay, I can show you where the bed sheets are, but let's see, specific bed sheet. You're looking for this company. It says we have some section B17. Let's go find the B17. We go find it. That's how I help people. Not the last time I went to the store, or the last 10 or 20 times I went to the store. It's kids that don't even have the device. They're on their own personal phone staring at it. Could you show me where the bathroom is? I don't know where the bathroom is. Don't you work here? Do you ever go to the bathroom while you're working here? I could look it up on the device. Like, I'll just walk to all four corners of the store. I'm sure I'll find it. Never mind. You know, it's really bad. It's getting objectively worse. I mean, I'm hyper focused on it, but I think objectively, it's getting way worse, especially after hearing what Charlie said about going to Tokyo. And he said he even went to the bad part of Tokyo, and it was like that. So they're doing something different over there in Japan. They're doing something different in Russia. There's something else. I think it's culture, and we are lacking a culture here in the States. And also what I hear going on up in Canada too, from the people I know that live up there.
That's where I am. And yeah,
that's where you are.
And a lot of this is problem reaction solution to like replacing, like when you were talking about like putting us on tracks, where like that is kind of what they want, is for us to be more or less on tracks. That's what the 15-minute city thing is all about, is so that we don't have to worry about that, because everything is just a straight shot from where you're going, and everything's going to be herded like that, right? Like I live in a small town right now, but I've just lived in Toronto for the last 10 years. And, you know, this is a tourist town. So when it's long weekends and stuff, it gets really busy, and you can just see the entire collapse of all of our stores when it gets busy like that, where in Toronto, it's like that 24/7, and they run just as smoothly. So I think that's a lot of it too, is that, you know, the people who ran systems are no longer there to run the systems, and nobody knows how the systems ran. So and then the agenda part of it being that, yeah, they've got technologies to replace or to fix all of these problems for us, right? If we can't tell, humans are too fallible, so we'll just get AI to look after these systems for us.
You know,
but the problems that they're fixing are the problems that they created.
Right? Yeah, that's right.
It makes zero sense.
Problem, reaction, solution.
I swear to God, if people drove their cars like they walk around in the grocery store, we would have a disaster.
Come to
Arizona. It would be a disaster.
Or come to Canada, because they do. It's like, you know, the signal thing. It's like the One Ring in Lord of the Rings. It's some form of Elvish. I don't know what it says. It's it means you're going left or right. It's pretty easy to use.
I was listening to this. I put this on Facebook because I was on Facebook putting up a show promo earlier this week. It's on my Facebook page, and I was sitting in a tea shop, and I commented, so it's like a real-time thought I had while I'm sitting there. I am not joking. I am not exaggerating. I hear this stuff all the time, but this was like crystal clear, and I wanted to post it so I could remember exactly what these people were saying. I'm at a tea shop, okay, right around the corner from my place. I'm on a nice side of town. I'm about as far away from the university as you can get here in Tucson, but there are tons of college kids at the tea shop, and I always hear dumb stuff, okay? And I wasn't the smartest kid when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. But I'm sitting here, and I am not joking. There were two girls having a discussion. This, not a joke. You're going to think it's a joke. I'm not joking. Having a discussion on whether Indiana, the state, was the country of India, and whether or not they had a population of 10 million or 10 billion. I'm not joking. And the one girl who I thought was a little bit more intelligent said, "No, it's India." And the other girl says, "I thought Indiana was the country." And she says, no, India is the country. Indiana is the state. And they have like 10 billion people. And I thought, oh, well, I guess she's not that smart. And then I'm also not joking. They were talking about what classes they were in. This girl literally asked somebody, you're going to think I'm making this up. She literally asked somebody how to spell the word English, because she did not know how to spell the word English. Our country, and I'm assuming Canada too, this is really bad. I mean, this is objectively getting worse by the day. Really, really bad. In fact, you know what? I'm looking to move overseas. And this could just be my perspective from looking at different rental companies and whatnot in Japan. The number one complaint they have that I've seen that's pretty universal is that Americans are loud, Americans are overweight, and so they take up too much space, and Americans don't know how to throw trash out. If that's the image that other people have of us as Americans, I think we're screwed. Not that people still don't glorify the U.S. like we glorify other countries we've never been to, but like we're just loud and fat and throw trash everywhere. That's really, really sad and depressing.
I think that it has something to do with like awareness of like your
surroundings.
your body, the distance that you can have between people. And I learned that from a very young age because I took martial arts. Like I know the distance that I can be away from people without being in their
You learn discipline.
spherical bubble, and I learned that awareness that, always be checking everything out and like looking around me and seeing what's going on in any place that I go to, and I don't think that, and it might be too that whenever I go to the grocery store, sorry, I'm still on this grocery store stuff. When I go to the grocery store, I'm in there on a mission, right? I normally go in there to get specific things. Like I don't go in there to dilly-dally around and try and find things to buy. Like I go in there knowing exactly what I need, where it's at, and I don't mess around. I'm in there to get it, and I'm out because I hate being in there any longer than I have to be in there. And maybe it's because I'm on a mission to get the thing that I need to get, and all these stupid NPC people are trying to interrupt me on my mission to get my thing out of there. They're like, what's his name from the Matrix? Were they called Mr. I'm blanking on his name. The bad guy in the Matrix.
The
Mr. Smith. There's a bunch of just miniature Mr. Smiths coming in and getting in my way. I mean, that's really what it seems like.
Every time you walk in the grocery store, they got the sunglasses. Mr. Ryder Lee, welcome back.
And it's like a war in the grocery store every time I go in.
That's actually, I think, a theory that's really gaining popularity. It was a joke at once. I used to joke about it, but sometimes it really feels like that. I swear to God, I've seen people in their cars. I have tinted windows too, so you can't even see in my car. People will but I can see out pretty well. And people look in my car, and there's nothing on my car either. It's just a black car with black windows. There's nothing to look at. People will just be set at the light, and then they'll just turn, and they'll look, and I can tell that they're looking in my car, and then they'll just stare. And then they'll start to drive away like this and stare at me while they're going through an intersection. I can see them kind of turning around, but it's you can't even see in my car. What are they looking at? I feel like sometimes those are agents. I really do.
I think so, dude. Almost everywhere I go, dude, people are just, I don't know if it's because I'm super tall or what it is, or that I have blonde hair and they think that I'm famous or some shit. I have no idea what it is, but people just stare me down
you got that
all the time.
You got that Jeremy Corbell energy going on. You walk into a grocery store, you got 5 camera angles on you.
It's like the Inception, where they're in the dream, and once they start recognizing, everyone starts turning and looking at them. That's what it feels like. Yeah,
that's a good point, Shane. It is kind of like the Matrix thing is overused. That's another good example. Yeah, and as soon as Ryder walks in the store, all the employees, they just and they transform. They walk into it.
Mr. Ryder Lee.
Welcome back.
I'm going to stop calling it a convenience store. I'm going to start calling it the inconvenience store, because that's what it seems like.
Yeah, it's pretty much everywhere I go too. So that's 2 different parts of the country and 2 different countries with Shane. And Grant, I'm sure you experience this everywhere. I'm sure people bump into people all the time. Yeah, of course. But the lack of awareness is definitely something I think is a byproduct largely of what Shane was saying earlier, of the pandemic. I mean, I can't believe that people actually followed arrows on the floor. I remember when stores would tell me that, sir, you got to follow the arrows. I just was no, I'm not. I'm following stickers on the floor. I mean, talk about herding cattle.
Maybe they knew that it was getting really bad, and that's what they were doing it for, was to get everybody to walk in the right direction in the grocery store, so that nobody bumps into each other.
My joke, since it all ended, was I think they need to put them back because people forgot how to walk around in grocery stores.
That's the only COVID measure I'd be in favor of bringing back. We should put them on the road too. Although there are lines on the road, but
everything we're complaining about, problem, reaction, solution. They created this problem, and the solution is going to be they're going to put it all back.
Yeah.
Everyone's just going to walk into the grocery store, stand on a conveyor belt, and you have to pretty much just grab things as you pass it on the conveyor belt.
Yeah. I mean, how close are we? We are dangerously close to that movie WALL-E. That came out like, what, 15 years ago? I mean, where they're sitting next to each other and the screen goes out and they're like, oh, someone sat next to me. They're Skyping each other, sitting next to each other. And then it's like, try the new flavor, blue. And then everybody just goes blue. Everybody tries blue. And then everybody goes red. That's the world that we're living in. I mean, that's how we consume information too. What are we concerned with today? Trump lawsuits. Talk about NPCs. This is exactly what the conservative, independent-minded people do. They are just as NPC, or is it NC? It's NPC. NPC as the other block of the political spectrum is. They just freaking repeat everything. Whatever's the new thing we're supposed to eat, whatever the new thing we're supposed to drink, whatever the new celebrity thing is, the new lawsuit, the new, Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, the new this, the new that. I remember when that was going on. I was like, that there's this whole Epstein thing going on. People watching the Heard trial. Oh my God, did you hear that she pooped in the bed? Yeah, I also heard Jeffrey Epstein raped a bunch of people and ran a sex operation. You want to talk about that? Well, this Johnny Depp thing is really interesting.
It was one of the only televised trials. Like, how big of a celebrity do you need to be to have a televised trial?
O.J. Simpson.
That's the only other one that I know about that was televised was OJ.
And that was like a televised high-speed chase on the highway. That it was a big deal, right? I think Michael Jackson's had a lot of like in the parking lot type reporting about it, but there was nothing going on in the courtroom like that.
Notice they don't show us, like, I mean, unless I missed it, I could be wrong, but from what I understand, there were like sketches and a couple of clips here or there out of context, but there really wasn't full coverage of the Trump trials. There wasn't full coverage of, certainly not of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. I mean,
they wouldn't even let any cameras or anybody in there to even get a photograph of her. Only thing we got was some sketches.
Yeah,
that's when you know shit's real, is whenever they only go in there and get sketches.
Yeah, they never showed us for all the horrible things Alex Jones supposedly said that they claimed he said, I mean, they never showed any of that. Unless you watched InfoWars, and he barely had any of the footage. I don't think they barely showed anything. If he was such a bad person and he did exactly what they said he did, why wouldn't they show us that like they did the Johnny Depp trial? Or why won't they show us there's several of them. Pick one. We could have picture-in-picture Trump trials. Here's the Trump trial in Georgia. Here's the one in New York. Oh, here's the one. But they don't show us that. Instead, we see Amber Heard in court with Johnny Depp, literal actors in a courtroom. We really are living in a movie. This is like a mixture of, yes, all those classic movies. It's like the Idiocracy, the Truman Show. I mean, really Idiocracy. When that woman was twerking in Atlanta for Kamala Harris, I was like, this is a female President Camacho.
Hulk Hogan with Trump, same thing.
Brother, yeah, just rip it. That's exactly what Camacho.
At least that was funny, though. That one was funny.
It was.
The twerking one was just sad.
Right.
But the reason that they didn't do the televised, there's a few reasons they didn't do the televising of the Alex Jones thing. One was that HBO was filming a documentary during all of it, so you can basically see all of the footage from the trial on HBO. But another reason would be that they didn't want to legitimize him at all.
Anything he said, you can't hear his side of the story or Alex's side of the story.
And it's the same way with Trump, right? Because they know that the Trump lawsuits were bogus and nonsense, so they couldn't let anyone in.
Statement. At the end of the day, once they had rung him through the ringer, then they would let him say something. They would film that, and then they would put it out. That's what they did every day.
That's like a Soviet
trial. They'd be like, "Do you have anything to say for yourself after today's events?" He'd be like, "Well, I'm looking exhausted, and I'm Donald Trump, and I don't really know what to say, so I'm just going to point out the fact that this is corrupt, and I'm not really coherent enough to point out why, but this is corrupt, and I look like."
And that's what they show you. That's a Soviet show trial is what that is, except they don't even show us the trial. They just show us clips of things that they edited together. Although I will say there was one thing I saw in the Trump trial that was really funny. When that woman, that prosecutor was asking him, it was like a deposition or something. I think they were asking him if he said something mean about fat women. And he's like, yeah, he's like, and he said something about like, yeah, you're the kind of woman I was talking about or something like that. I was like, oh, I wouldn't vote for this guy, but that's gold.
We've progressed from Tipper Gore's parental advisory stickers to Megan Thee Stallion opening for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Did you hear her lyrics? Like, that was, wow. You're not even like, you shouldn't really be playing those lyrics in front of children, let alone on national television at a presidential rally.
Yeah.
But okay, I mean, like, what are we doing now? Baiting. Leave me alone, baiting.
Biting my tater.
I've seen
Chelsea Handler these days, you know, just sitting around smoking weed and baiting all day. You know, like we actually do have idiocracy playing out.
We really do, especially when I saw Fetterman come to Congress in sweatpants and a t-shirt. I was like, wow.
Power slap? What is that except for the kick me in the balls like a couple steps back, right? Like, power slap's not going to be enough. The next thing's going to be for you slap him in the face and kick him in the balls real fast.
Now my balls.
Drop the face slap and it's just full on soccer kicks to the balls for everybody. Like it's just the evolution of that, and we're already there. And of course, Mountain Dew's coming from the sky and space lasers now. So everybody,
it is. Don't you joke about that. Dews are real. Yeah, they are real. They are real. I was telling Ryder earlier today. You ever watch King of the Hill?
Mm-hmm.
Remember? I don't know if you remember one of the first episodes where the neighbors moved in from Laos, and they're Asian. So Hank and his friend, they're like, so you guys Chinese or Japanese? And they say, oh, we from Laos. It's Southeastern Asian country or Southeast Asian country. And they says, okay, so you guys from China or Japan? You from Chinese or Japanese? That's kind of what it's like with the Dew crowd too. You're like, I on my show, I read Lockheed Martin, I read Boeing, I read Raytheon in my backyard here in Tucson. I read all those DEW weapon pages and laser pages. So like, yeah, they're real. I just personally don't think they were used in Hawaii. So you don't think that they exist, Ryan? No, they exist. They just weren't used in Hawaii. So are you Chinese or Japanese? They haven't. It's like they no idea.
Knucklehead, you numbskull.
How dare I read what it says on the website rather than just listening to whatever I heard on Rumble that day?
You must smoke meth and your cousins.
It gets so annoying, so tiring. It sounds like we're just complaining, and we are, but at the same time, there's something to be said about the consistency in our experiences, and I'm sure people in the chat room having similar experiences and realizing that, again, I think that it's objective that this kind of a problem is getting worse, at least in certain countries, and I think that that's a cultural issue. That's largely a cultural issue.
I think so too. They don't have awareness. They don't know the space in between their body. They don't realize how, and that's another thing with like Japan. Like they're really considerate and kind. From my understanding, I've never been there personally, but they keep their space from one another and they don't bother other people. I had a gentleman on my show, Lorenzo, and from the New Now channel, and he was talking about how you could just like take naps in the park. You could like drop your wallet on the sidewalk and come back a couple of hours later and it'll still be there. You could leave your bike out wherever and it would still be there when you get back a couple of days later. Like they don't mess with other people.
Yeah, there's very little theft in Tokyo, and there's hardly no theft anywhere else. I mean, outside the bigger cities. I mean, it happens. It's just very, 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 very rare. Very rare. That's a cultural thing.
Yeah, they work at all of their shadow stuff. They work it with really creepy porn. That is
100% true, including what you have on your shirt there. That's very famous.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Going back centuries, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's just like in the United States where people make arguments about racism and racism inherently baked into the structure. It's like, well, if that's the case, why does every Asian subgroup do better than so-called white people? Shouldn't Asians be equally as discriminated against? They're probably the most foreign of anybody that comes here, and yet they make the most money on average. They have the healthiest overall like conditions of like lifestyles, or I should say they are healthier on average, but that's probably because of lifestyle. It's a cultural thing. It's hard work and eating right, and it's baked into the culture. That's the problem. That's the issue. And I think that you can see that objectively in statistics for every individual group that you break down. Certain groups are certainly more hardworking than other groups. Like Hispanics traditionally do better than blacks. Blacks do usually worse than all the other groups. They also have family problems. Like this stuff that we hear in the media from both sides. They talk about culture wars. It is kind of, but it's an overall cultural deterioration that is happening likewise because of conservative type people that are not really conservative. They're just as mad and just as crazy as the so-called progressives are. And where are we progressing to anyway? We're progressing to an abyss, a really, really, really bad situation, not forward to some perceptual utopia. And again, to reiterate, the conservative people that claim to be conservative are not much better because they regurgitate everything their party says. That's my own.
Everyone's still swinging at Catholic or swinging at Christianity right now in terms of like either trying to attack it or trying to join it right now is just to have that kind of unity for all of the reasons you just stated.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean that's why anybody joins a group, right? You join because you want to feel camaraderie, you want to feel like you're a part of something, you want to feel like other people understand you. It doesn't matter if it's atheism, Christianity, or you join a political party. I mean, no one's going to sell you the bad stuff about what they think or what they believe. Like, I still know Christians that deny the Inquisition or the Crusades. Like, how can you deny that? And then that gets into history. You can't really trust anything in history. The world's only 50 years old. Our grandparents are lying to us. And you get into that kind of stuff, right? Or you get...
Tartaria, don't you know?
Yeah. Tataria, yeah. I learned about that in prison too. Tataria. Give me a break. It's so ridiculous. But what about these old buildings? What about them?
Yeah. So shout out to the Lore Lodge on that, because I just love the way that he broke all of that down. They're like, and they say, and we don't have any pictures. The problem is, we have pictures, lots of them. Yeah.
Made all those pictures up. My favorite one was, I was actually one of these Tataria people, because I did a show on it called Never Go Full Retartardia. And there was a listener who said, your grandparents are lying to you. They're not really that old. The world just began recently. And I said, you've got to be joking me. There's no way you actually believe that. But they claim to actually believe that. I mean, that's worse than the 5,000-year Christian thing. Mohenjo-Daro is older than 5,000 years old, but no, they believe the earth is 5,000 years old. And hey, if that's what you believe, I'm not going to try to change your mind. I'm not in the business of doing that personally. But 50 years, maybe 100 years, like that's really pushing it. That's even the 5,000-year-old people are thinking, man, you guys are crazy. That's nuts.
Cults everywhere. Yeah. And
I think it's even less, dude. I think that we all died in 2012, and
the Higgs boson, yeah.
Yeah, we're only like 10 years old.
You know what?
I've done the 20 and back like a bunch of times. I'm like 100.
The 420 and back?
Yeah, the 420 and back. The 420 back like 12 times. I'm thousands of years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what I think some of that stuff is? I'm wondering what you guys think, or maybe what people in the chat think. I wonder if it's not some kind of like Soviet Union style rewriting of history, in the sense that like I'll be having a conversation with someone, or I'll be doing a show that's like, I do a lot of presentation like shows more so than conversations, and I'll sit there and try to explain. It doesn't matter what someone's politics are, if they believe this, by the way. It doesn't matter who they vote for or what their religion is, but I'll try to explain something about the Civil War that's relatively unknown. Like Lincoln was a Republican, and it was the Republican Congress that actually freed slaves in DC and elsewhere before Lincoln did anything. He had to be pushed to have any kind of response.
He was pretty against it.
He was pretty, mostly he was pretty against it. Although he was a Republican, and we never learned about Charles Sumner and Theodore Thaddeus Stevens and all these other members of Congress, all white men who have inherently opposed the institution of race-based slavery, which was founded largely by the nullifiers and the Democrats who wanted to overthrow the Constitution. They were the original insurrectionists. That's historically factual. I wrote a book on it. It's stuff you can pull up off the National Archives. My point is, I'll explain that and I'll have a really good dialogue. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really good stuff. And then I'll get people that tell me, I don't believe that. Okay, why? Can you show me why you don't believe that? Can you prove me wrong? Can you show me why this Library of Congress entry is incorrect or inaccurate? Well, I don't believe it because the Civil War never happened. And it's like, okay, so what you're telling me is rather than having a discussion about it, whether you believe it happened or not, you just deny that any of it happened, then you don't have to have a discussion with anybody on it. You don't have to discuss world wars, politics, how this stuff repeats itself. You don't have to discuss the Civil War. These are like people in school that just didn't want to take a test. They didn't want to learn anything. They just wanted to smoke weed all day, or they wanted to go over the hill behind the school and do drugs, or just, whatever people did. I don't know what people did because I didn't do that stuff. Or they go drink or something. They don't want to take the test. So it's like, I don't need that stuff anyway for the future. This is just a new version of that. I don't need that Civil War stuff. They made all that up. The Civil War stuff, all these cemeteries, like I told them, I went to Gettysburg. All they made, that's a movie set. Gettysburg is not real. All the tombstones are fake. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was all built like the last couple of years. It's like,
What?
Yeah, you haven't heard that?
No, I haven't. That's a new one to me. Holy shit.
All the battlefields up there in Pennsylvania and West Virginia and Harper's Ferry. That's a movie set. I've been there like 4 times. The John Brown's raid was based out of there. John Brown never existed, guys. That was all fabricated to keep us from the truth. And the truth is that the Illuminati and the Dark Fleet, TM, they control our reality, and it's only about 50 years old. I don't know if that means the 70s happened. Did the flower power movement happen in the 60s, or were humans much more primitive in the 19s? This stuff is just so out of control. It's so ridiculous. How do you come up with this stuff? You know what they have to have? You remember that episode of the X-Files where Mulder and that Area 51 guy switch bodies? You guys remember that?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite. You remember that, Ryder? Mulder switch bodies with the Area 51.
In X-Files, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes to see the lone gunman. And the lone gunman, they published this paper, all these like different conspiracy theories on JFK and whatnot. And he's laughing, the guy from Area 51, he's looking at the paper and he's laughing. They're like, what are you laughing at? And he's like, you know how many of these stories I made up while on the toilet? There's got to be a bunch of people that just work for the government. Their job is to just come up with this stuff.
Dude, I came from that world, and I've told people that they still just don't hear it. Like it's and the analogy I have for it now is just like there was like a room, and we threw a bunch of dirt in the room, and we had researchers come along and make piles, and that was all fine until they just let anybody come into the room, because other people were coming in carrying their own piles of dirt. And not only were they walking through the nice clean piles of dirt and messing them all up again, they were also spilling their own dirt into that. And now we've just got a room that's like 3/4 dirt, and everybody's walking around up to the neck in dirt being like, I got the truth, it's down. I don't know where it went, but it's in there.
Have you guys heard the one? This is a really great one. The one where they say that like the obelisks of Egypt and all that, like temples, the Osirian, the Abydos, all the temples, everything was all made also like a movie set sometime the 1920s. You ever seen that? Those claims? That's pretty big online. And my favorite part of these claims is that they'll say it was built sometime in like the early 20th century. But even though that means history isn't real, they had these high definition cameras that took the photographs that we see today that also happen to have watermarks that say AI image generator. I am so tired of this stuff. It makes me just want to just delete my computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love the like people are just like throwing up what are clearly photoshopped images and being like, do you see anything strange? Yeah, I see a lot of strange stuff because that's clearly a photoshopped image. What are you doing?
Oh, like the ones with the giants or the aliens hanging out with
there's
tribals.
those, but like it's just like a lot of them are they're hinting at Tartaria, right? So it'll be like one of the constructions where they do have the foundation all dug out at a street level while they're raising the streets, because they do. And they'll be like, see proof of, like, yeah, see proof of the fact that they raised the street. What more do you, but yeah.
That Tataria thing.
It's kind of like the Princess Bride. I don't think that word means what you think that word means.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that evidence is really the winning evidence you think it is. It's actually kind of counterproductive, but that's our community now, right? And, going back into it, like what we're seeing now, it's the next transition in what I said of making conspiracies domestic terrorism, check, and now making any leftover conspiracies incompetence theories. So going back to the shot in the air heard around the world, it was just incompetence. It wasn't a plan. It was just incompetence. If it was a plan, he did it to himself. But if it wasn't him doing it to himself, then it was just incompetence.
Just incompetence, yes. This is very, very, I mean, the way that kind of thing, well, just like with the debates with Biden, it transitions overnight. He's fine. Nothing's wrong. Everything's great. Next day, same script, different script, rather, same people. There's something wrong with him. We got to replace him. It's like, didn't you literally just say last night that everything was fine, but now it's not? Like the way that scares me, the way that the script can flip so dramatically, so quickly. Like I had that debate on my TV and I was vacuuming the floor. So I didn't really have like my focus entirely on it. So, but like by the time I got done cleaning my house, Joe Biden suddenly had dementia. And I was like, what happened?
Oh, it was COVID, probably. COVID.
Yeah. I'll step down if I get sick. 3 hours later, I've been diagnosed with COVID.
Yeah.
Wow. It's really surprising.
Yeah.
How the narrative can switch that easily is a very scary thing. And then you think about how narratives can flip historically, like how things can just be distorted about our history.
6 million.
Yeah, it's wild how the same people that were saying that Joe Biden was cognitively there are the same people that are saying that Kamala Harris is an amazing candidate, and no one's batting an eye. They're like, oh, well, you lied before. You're definitely not lying now. Right?
That's kind of like with UFOs too, right? All these people that are like, I want the government to tell me the truth. Why? Why would you want them to tell you the truth? Because they've been lying to me. Okay, I get the idea of that, but you want people that have been lying to you. It's just like what that was. You were doing a Batman thing earlier. You were doing. Who were you doing? What's that? You were doing Bane. Yeah, that reminds me of Batman. It was like that guy who was trying to blackmail Bruce Wayne, and he goes to Fox, and he's like, "So let me get this straight. So what you're saying is you believe that the client is." He's like, what do you say? Like he's parading around at night dressed like a bat, beating people to the pulp with his bare hands. And your idea is to blackmail this individual?
That's what you're going for here? Yeah, I don't think you thought this one through. And that's what a lot of, Welcome to and again, they just set the stage. We pull our own strings at this point in time. They don't even need to really do much because the media is just doing what the media do. It's the way that we run with it now that makes it so dangerous, to be honest.
I said this to Ryder earlier, and Ryder, you and I, we had a brief talk about this. It's like when, if let's say an intelligence agency, I'm just going to be very general, but let's just say the CIA or something. If they know that you don't believe them, what do? They tell you the truth. And you're not going to believe it. You're going to manufacture the lie. That's a lot of what's going on. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the times you're actually being told the truth, but you've been lied to so much and traumatized so much. It's like when a woman, this is just from me having dated a handful of people, when women say, I'm not joking, women have told me this, I find it suspicious that you're nice. I find it suspicious that you cook. I find it suspicious that you read. I don't really think you're that kind of person. I'd rather be with someone who doesn't do that because they're real. And you're just like, what in the hell does that mean? Similar kind of a thing. You don't trust anything the government says. They know you don't trust anything. So they're just going to use that against you. They'll just tell you the truth and they know you're not going to believe it anyway. It's a lot of mind games and a lot of trauma, I think, is what we're dealing with here. And COVID was a giant dose of trauma collectively.
Well, that's the thing. It's like with the UFO community and ufology in general, the government has always been telling us the truth, but people assume that they're lying.
It's not
And
the
they
truth we
assume
want to hear.
That's right.
They've been telling us that it's not aliens. They've been saying that it has nothing to do with extraterrestrials, and they're right.
Well,
That's
and
not
that,
what I
Being
wanna hear,
proven
man.
more and more every
What I
day.
want to hear, look, the fucking beta set boss, they took me in my sleep, man. And they did things. And I need retribution, and I need everyone to know about it. And the government knows, and they're gonna unleash my files, otherwise I'm gonna make another YouTube channel.
yeah. Yeah. You know what? I tried. I met a lot of good people this year when I went to Roswell for the anniversary fest. Had a good time, and I had no fighting with anybody. People were cool, but I got a lot of that. Are you Chinese or Japanese? Like Hank Hill thing. When someone would ask me what I think about UFO, and I would tell them, well, I'm pretty sure that this is a universal thing that people have seen in remote parts of the world and parts of the world that are not remote for thousands and thousands of years. It's taken different forms over thousands of years, and now it takes the form of what our technology is, spaceships. I think the little green men are the plant spirits of the shamans. I think they're also the fairies of Europe, and I also think that the little green men are things that we see even if we're not taking plant medicines when we are stressed and when we are overwhelmed and our body produces too much DMT. We have these waking like dream experiences, maybe more so than a hallucination. When collectively we feel like that, this is what I'm explaining to the person. When collectively we feel like that, we collectively see things that are there, but they're just not there in the physical world. That's why they bleep in and out of reality probably. And sometimes people don't see them because they probably don't have that dose of DMT up here or whatever the case might be. So you read through all that. You read like Dr. Strassman's DMT study. You read Passport to Magoni by Jacques Vallée. You read Carl Jung's UFO assessment, the psychology and the archetype of it. And I'm sitting there explaining all this. Okay. And I'm explaining to them like maybe the gray alien is also kind of like this fetal, like unconscious representation and projection of ourself. I think this is pretty, a pretty interesting perspective. And the response I get is, so you Chinese or Japanese? That's the kind of thing it's what, actually, it's a better example would be, you ever seen that movie, The Great Outdoors? You guys ever seen that with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd?
Long time ago.
There's a classic scene. You couldn't bring it up because you'd probably get flagged. But Dan Aykroyd and John Candy are sitting on this porch, and Dan Aykroyd is like this big businessman, so he sees business and everything. John Candy's just a laid-back father kind of a guy, family guy, and they're looking at this lake with all these trees out in the wilderness. And Dan Aykroyd starts saying what he sees. He's like, they could have a waste disposal plant and put nuclear waste in the lake, and they could have a lumber mill and take all the trees down and put up all these businesses. And he goes to John Candy. He's like, so what do you see? And he's like, I just see trees. It's kind of like that within all these different fields. You sit there and explain it like, I just see UFOs and aliens, man. But what does that mean? Well, it means aliens. It's like, it's circular logic. You're not even listening to what you're saying. It becomes a cult. This is just my assessment. My words don't speak for Shane and Ryder, but this is what I think.
It is. That's a very. We've had many conversations about the UFOs and the extraterrestrials, and that's pretty much also Carl Jung's perspective on it as well. And it's also interesting that people that experience this kind of stuff are normally going through some kind of they're working through their own trauma in their life. Like really nobody that's like doing good in life and has everything that they want and everything that they need and how everything they normally don't get abducted by aliens.
Well, just like
they just don't. Okay, I would like to see the statistics on that, and I'm going out on a limb by saying that, but
just
kind of
like
confident
a plumber or an electrician would not have free access to a top secret government security building without security present. Aliens don't need our government's permission to land. So there's just a lot of the foundation of the whole story, if you will, that stops making sense when just common sense is interjected to it. But here we
Yeah,
are.
let's see them, Shane. Like, where are they at?
Exactly. Like, they
Where are they at?
you're not ready to see them. That's what it is. It's because you keep dyeing your hair blonde.
It's because of my blonde hair. It's because I'm not in the right vibration. It's because I'm not taking drugs, and I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, a steady dose of like a microdose of psilocybin or LSD, I'm sure that would open up your perceptive nature to see them a lot more frequently. That would make sense to me.
You read Dr. Strassman's book on DMT, he never expected people to see relatively frequently, and it was pretty consistent, the kinds of things they saw. And what they saw was something he wasn't interested in, and that was UFO, alien kind of abductions. People were getting implants put in them in these studies. They were having experiences where they were being experimented on by insectoids and reptilians. And one of the stories, I think David Wilcock read this book and repeated one of the. I forgot to tell you this. There's someone in Dr. Strassman's studies, or his study in the 90s. There's a couple of different studies. They said, I'm not joking, they said that they were being eaten by one of these aliens, and then the alien, I can't remember the order, raped them. And I thought, that is literally what David Wilcock said. He said he was eaten by an alien, and then they brought him back to life and raped him. He literally said that. And I read that in this book, and I'm thinking, he read this book, and he just took that guy's story. He just took the guy. So David Wilcock is definitely doing DMT. Just sue me.
I remember him saying that. He said that it was a reptilian being, right?
They went, they ate him, and then they raped him, and they brought him back to life and raped him again. Then they made him a sandwich.
There's the Credo Mutwa when he told his story about the lizard people raping him, coming up out of the ground and doing it too. He had also just taken some type of substance just before that happened too, right? Yeah,
I believe so. I mean, he's a shaman, and that doesn't. I don't think that means that it's not real. I don't think it's a hallucination, like it's not actually there. I think we're just tuning into wavelengths of other dimensions, and our body is not the only part of ourselves. We separate it even in mainline psychology and science, right? You have the mind, the body, the soul. So it's something that's operating on another level.
And in most cases, if we don't know what something is, we fill it in with what we expect it to be.
Yep.
And if we expect it to be little gray aliens, then that's what we'll experience it to be. Yeah. And that's a phenomenon that anyone who dabbles in psychology will bump into at some point in time. Is that's what we do with things that we don't remember correctly or we didn't have the information for. Like if I ask you what color, if I were to shut off my camera and then say what color was specific painting behind me, it's you're going to take a guess and you have a pretty good chance of being right, but you may not have even glanced at that one, so you're just going to make it up if you right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
it's funny you say that. I think Ryder knows this. I was on InfoWars about 3 months ago, and I was being like, I had my stuff set up here in front of my books, and the Info Warriors, with their Sherlock Holmes like detective skills, paused the video with me in it. I was talking about the eclipse and zoomed in real close on the books, and they did an analysis in real time. And apparently I'm a Satanist and a communist because I have a book written by a professor from a major university about communism, about how horrible it was. And I also own several books on magic and witchcraft and symbolism and everything else. But the sleuths at InfoWars, the Info Warriors, they Info-warried their way right into my bookshelf, and they got proof that I'm a Satanist and a communist. That's how stuff spreads on the internet.
Yeah, or like pictures taken next to someone, like that doesn't happen to everybody at every event.
Yeah, exactly. Hell. Yep.
Yeah, I think I got called a Satanist one time for the background that I had at the house that I was at before this house because it was a skeleton or something. Like people just make shit up, dude. Like I put that up there to cover the windows so light wouldn't come in. Like, that's all.
That's really funny. Yeah. All that went through Ryder's head was like, hey, we got to make this a little bit better for the video stream. Let's cover this light up. And then the sleuths got in there and they Sherlock Holmes it. And he's a Satanist.
That must mean that Ryder is a Satanist.
The deeper subconscious of Ryder Lee as a Satanist, was saying, let's cover up the light. We don't like the light. We like darkness and evil. See, that's what was happening.
No, Satan is the light bringer. Come on now.
I love when people point that out. Like if someone points out my books or something, you know, I say I have a lot of them. I used to have a lot more. People look at my books and be like, are you a devil worshiper? Why would you ask me that? Well, you have a book on witchcraft. It's like, well, I also have like 14 books on heart disease, and you know, does that make me a heart doctor? It's just
you can only be one thing. You can only be one thing. Singular identity, and that's your politics too.
Yeah, it's your politics too.
Well, guys, I gotta pee really freaking bad. I've been holding this pee in for way too long. It's about to burst through my seam, so we're gonna have to end it a little early here today. I've been holding it as long as I can. I should have brought a pee bottle in so I can pee in the pee bottle, do the...
What I would do is I would piss in the bathtub and then lay down in it, and you might just obtain some sort of supernatural metaphysical powers.
I think that is true. And then if you pee in a bottle and then like dump it over your head, like while you're live on YouTube, you'll be imbued with the Arcturian Christ consciousness.
Or we could all go to Montauk Island and pee in each other's mouths.
I didn't think of that. What kind of abilities does that give you?
Apparently we'll time travel and shit. It'll be wild.
So we got a lot of things on there. You get telekinesis from laying in the bathtub full of piss. You can pour piss over your head on YouTube. That gives you some Arcturian power. Or you can just have a golden shower at the Montauk base, and that gives you time travel ability. This is really
you forgot that we got to jerk each other off too. That's an important part of the Montauk experience.
Was kind of implied getting it in our mouth.
No, they only do that at the Forbidden Knowledge News Awards in Miami.
That's the only thing you can really only learn in prison. Oops.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, it's been fun. Appreciate you guys coming on here. I don't know what happened to Andy. I guess he came on for a second, but his internet's really bad, and I blame it all on him. He knew about this show way far in advance. He could have made all the preparations, so it is his fault. But I think that it went really well, and I appreciate both of you guys. Shane, can you let people know where to find you?
After the / on the link tree to Shane_Sadorn, you'll find all of my links.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Ryan, where can they find you online, my friend?
www.thesecretteachings.info. That is the easiest way. There are links to all the different platforms that you can find my show on. It's a matter of preference, but the show is free to download and listen. There's also a subscription archive. I do my show Monday through Friday, 5 nights a week. You can listen at groundzero.radio, 10 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday, and then it goes back up into that archive. So it's all completely free if you can't listen to the live show. That's at www.thesecretteachings.info. If you want to get a hold of me, tstradio@protonmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. And everyone else, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the channel and the algorithm. Share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications. And we'll hopefully see you guys at some point, at some time, because I'm going to be working on this documentary until it's done. So probably won't see you guys for a while, but I appreciate you guys sticking with me and still hanging in there. And to all the Ryder Ranger channel members, really appreciate you guys. GG, Noble Truth, holding it down on the Ryder Ranger channel memberships. Means a lot to me, guys. So, and I'll get one of those channel member only videos up here pretty soon. But we'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys very much. Peace.